and we'll go. So the wonders of technology haven't actually beaten us. So here I am with the very, very lovely Anneliese Wells and having a real conversation as opposed to one where we all pretend that everything was okay. So hopefully you've read a little bit about Anneliese. She is a beautiful yoga teacher, has so much grace and gentleness and beauty, and she's been a friend of mine for quite a few years now. I don't know how long, can't even remember. It feels like forever in a very good way. So today let's get down to the nitty-gritty and say, how are you really doing, Anneliese?
Well, I'm actually really happy at the moment. Probably the happiest in a long time. And that almost feels greedy. But yeah, I am, because I'm absolutely loving the lifestyle I'm able to lead right now. I've just had 2 weeks off and I've been outside in my garden. You can probably see behind me how privileged I am. I've got a lot of space. I'm in Barkham. I've got lovely walks to go on. And nature is just in abundance and giving me so much joy. So yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, I know you live in a great place, and you know, we had a little chat before we attempted to do the live to Facebook about how, you know, how privileged we are generally to be in a lovely part of the world, and also not to have to be scrabbling for money to pay the bills or having to put all the bills off. I'm not saying that's what, you know, your situation that you're in, but being able to step back for long enough to go, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. I feel I can go outside and breathe and be calm and all the rest of that.
Well, it's interesting, Fiona, because actually when this first happened, that was my initial response was purely panic over our financial situation, because we were not in a great financial position. And I wrote a blog this month about how lockdown has helped me to see past my never-ending fear around insecurity, financial insecurity.
Okay.
So when it all first happened, I was just terrified about, you know, what's going to happen, how am I going to pay the bills, and was in a real panic and wasn't sleeping, and, you know, was full of anxiety, and you know, not even sure how business was going to work because I didn't have Zoom, and I didn't want to spend more money on having to set things up like that. And then I just accepted that actually that is what I was going to have to do. I was going to have to find a way to make it work. And so I am able to teach, and it's just a whole interesting experience, and we're having to adapt to new ways of being, whether it's, you know, at home or in our work experience.
Yeah, and I know, honestly, I feel like a broken record, because I do keep saying the only certain thing is there is uncertainty, and we've actually kind of ignored it for a long time, haven't we, in some ways, if we've been coasting along maybe in an okay place and just thinking everything was going to stay the same. This feels like a, you know, like it's a big wake-up call, isn't it? It's a big kind of like being shaken gently or not so gently, and going, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And goodness knows that we were I felt like we were reaching this real climax about the environment. And it's something that I've been very passionate about, and trying to make changes throughout my life, and shopping differently, and really considering what journeys I go on. And this has really forced me to consider, you know, I'm only driving to Lewis once a week. Whereas before I would go for my exercise class, I would go for shopping, I would meet people, I would go for coffee. You know, I mean, now I've got an 18-year-old who's sort of officially left college. I don't have bus journeys to do. So, and once a week into town actually feels fine. I really thought I'd miss Lewis, and I'm not. As much as I love it, I'm not actually missing it. And, you know, had this happened a few months before when it was pouring with rain, who knows where I'd be. Probably in a very, very different place. But, you know, I feel very honoured and privileged to have had this chance,
right,
with the incredible weather that we've had.
Oh, so that, I mean, this is interesting because this conversation, that's one of the things that I do want to talk about in a minute, but I always like to do the bad news, if there is any bad news. I mean, actually, maybe the word bad isn't right, but what I do want to ask is, what has been the most challenging thing? And you've kind of covered that a little bit, but you know, what have you gone, oh my God, you know, this is the bit where I go, I don't know how I'm going to get through? Or is it a thought process? Don't know.
Yeah,
Just
I think
curious.
it is a thought process, because at the beginning, I was really worried for all my family. I'm very lucky that my parents are young. They had me when they were incredibly young. They had all three of us by the time they were 24. So they're still in their very early 70s. And then I've got, you know, uncles and aunts still around. And I suddenly thought we were having conversations, which is a privilege. And I suddenly thought, my goodness, I could lose all of them, all in one go. And that was really painful. And I was overwhelmed by how on earth I would cope with that amount of grief.
Right.
You know, I'm very lucky to have only lost grandparents and great aunts and uncles, but nobody really close to me. So that was a real challenge. And I think the emotional side has been the most challenging, the sort of what if,
yeah,
you know, what if we lose our house, because we nearly lost our house before. And that terrified me. And, you know, what if, yeah, we can't pay all the bills? And then I just got real and had that moment where I said to myself, you know, everyone is in the same situation. There are loads of people who are going to be far worse off than you. Look at what you've got and how lucky you are, and just deal with it. And I had to just go through the process, you know, speaking to the mortgage company, speaking to the Universal Credit to sign up for Universal Credit. I spent the first week literally on the phone for hours and hours and hours in queues, finding out, eventually getting through to people. And then I just felt this weight being lifted off me. It was like, okay, I've done what I can and I can't really do any more. That's the sort of the financial situation. It is what it is, and it's the same as everybody else. So I'm just going to have to draw a line under that and just see. And I think it was also the element of fear, because my daughter was still living in London at university, and actually she was completely on her own, so two flatmates had gone home. And it was worrying about other people's mental health and how are they going to cope. And my dad and stepmom live in Chelsea, which was like the epicenter of everything. And I was really worried for them. And then, you know, once the sort of main fear broke down a little bit, it was easier to cope and just be, I suppose, because that's all we can do.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I know, and you have said, and you've been very candid about how, you know, you've had your own journey with mental wellness, you know, whatever, however it is that you call it. You've been a sufferer, as you quite rightly have said, and has that been, have you been able to use some of the techniques and things that you have learned, you know, has that been helpful right here and now?
Yes, absolutely. I think ever since I was a child, and I probably suffered from depression as a child as well as an adult, my go-to calm place is always nature. And of course, with the yoga, a lot of the practices that I include, and mostly those are around breathing. Yoga for me is not exercise. It is one of my calm places. It's a way of grounding myself. and finding that space that I need sometimes and becoming more stable.
Right.
So my practice is mostly gentle and breathing, and then I will go into nature, and you know, that always restores me. Doesn't matter what the weather's like, you know, even that walk that we went on when we were it still restores me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I wonder whether, you know, this kind of situation, and it might be a different situation when this is over and it calms down, whenever things are, there are still things that happen, right, in life. There's still illness, there's still, you know, death, there's still divorce, there's all kinds of things. And so this in a way can teach us, if we want to learn, how we deal with the big shit, how resilient we are. You know, what are our go-to tools? And obviously I'm going to find out what your very favorites are, and you know, I've got an idea but I'm going to find out what those are for you to share with people in the group. But yeah, I wonder whether it's things that come up, because I know for me it's about worry, and it's so, and I get how so blinking pointless worry is, but if you're a worry person, you know, what is it that you can do? Do you think you can ever not be a worry person?
I don't know. I know that right now I'm in this happy place because I'm not having to do a lot of work. I've only got 2 classes online. I've got a private client, a couple of private clients. I'm not in that sort of sell space, because frankly there isn't any point. The market I'm in is utterly saturated, and it's kind of why I took that space for myself, because I just thought, you know, what can I give that isn't already out there? I can just keep doing what I'm doing and hope that people will find me if they need me. And you know, and I've put a few videos on my YouTube page, but it's very difficult to find that healthy balance of what am I giving away for nothing that's really helpful for people, but not giving so much away so that I can still earn an income when this is over.
Oh yeah, I love that aspect of the real conversation, because for those of us who have small businesses or are self-employed, there is a fine balance, and I know quite a lot of people in this group are in the same position. And yeah, it feels sometimes like everybody and their brother is going, here, have my stuff for nothing, and that's great. But you know, when you give stuff away, do people value it? Yes, it's lovely to give, and often as women, mothers in particular maybe, or just women, I think we are givers. We often rush to do things for other people, and I really commend you for honouring yourself. You know, one of my big messages, honouring yourself to go, actually, I'm going to give myself some space right here and now. You know, I've dealt with the practicalities of, you know, the mortgage and the payment, stuff like that. There's nothing else I can do. And now a bit of space for me is what is exactly right. Honestly, I like, why did I not do that? But no, it was right for you, and you tuned in. Go, sister.
Well, and you know, the thing is that I was at a place before where I was just at such a crossroads. Where on earth am I going to take my business? And trying to be all things to all people, and sort of seeing this whole new online market and thinking, well, how can I still be all things to all people? And taking, partly why I took that time out, because I just thought I can't. And I need to work out where I'm going next. You know, where is this? I can't see studios, I certainly can't see my studio opening for some time, and therefore it's going to be online. And I needed to work out how I could best serve the people that come to me. And I thought, Anneliese, go back to your niche, go back to what you specialise in. You know, when I'm here, my studio's in my garden, I can only teach 8 people, and small is beautiful, and I want to still be able to help people. So I'm kind of going up to the screen and looking at what people are doing, and not just, you know, I've seen classes. I took a dance class and there were 2 pages of Zoom people, and I thought, you couldn't see if we were hurting ourselves. even if you wanted, you can't possibly keep an eye on all of us. And that's not me. I'm not in it for lots of money, so I'm not going to have a screen of tiny little icons. I want to be able to see the real people. So that was, you know, that time was useful to really decide what was important to me and what I need to feel that I can give to other people, and to just stop trying so hard.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my goodness me, how hard it is. It's exhausting trying, isn't it? And yet when you can find some space and some quiet to be able to go, oh, hang on, and then to work out what's in your best interest to do as well, because I try and live by this and I don't get it right, and I, you know, hands up, I'm not saying that I am perfect. In fact, if I felt I was perfect, I would work hard to be imperfect because I quite like being imperfect. It gives wiggle room. And you know, what is right for each of us to be doing. And we know that being in that place where you feel so full that you kind of have to overspill and share, because this is the thing, this is the thing, you know, I want to be sharing this. And then you're in your integrity and in your alignment, aren't you? So that actually brings me to the next part of my question, which is, have you noticed in amongst having the space that there have been any unexpected gifts from this situation?
Worrying less. But like, you know, you said to me earlier, do you think you'll worry less? I think I'm only worrying less because the current situation isn't as bad as it could have been, and I'm getting that chance to rest and sort of reset. Realizing that family are what's most important. Now, I've come from a family where there's been a lot of divorce, and I was estranged from my father for a very long time, and I have two half sisters who I don't see as much as I'd like to, and a nephew, and I've got a brother in France and a sister in Scotland. And I get very used to being self-contained and not seeing anybody, not talking to anybody. It comes from having had depression for so long that I just, you know, I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
And so I just get on with stuff. And one of the things that I've realised is how important, you know, we've had Zoom family calls. We've probably spoken more over the last few months and weeks than we have in years. And also having those really special friends that I've had one-to-one Zoom conversations with.
Yeah.
So choosing carefully who I want to spend time with, and yeah, prioritising family very much. I think that sort of knowing that there's a risk of losing people makes you want to be with them more and speak more and connect more.
Yeah.
Yeah, not having. I think actually, no, the two of the other things that I've really been gifted is therefore acceptance.
Ew.
Because, you know, we are where we are. I can't do more than I'm doing. I needed that space. I accept this is the situation. But yeah. Patience. Patience with family, because you know your family are the people who press your buttons the most. Oh, yeah. And it doesn't matter how hard I've tried to be mindful around my family, I've really struggled. And suddenly that's fallen into place. Because I was worried, you know, we haven't had all four of us here together for a long time. Some of us square one another, this idea that, you know, you can be really close, but there are personality traits that you just bounce off and get really triggered by. And actually it hasn't been like that. And I've relished taking on that role of matriarch, I suppose. Stepping into that space, and I've really loved it, and I feel like I'm balancing everybody and just not reacting when somebody's getting angry. I'm able to step back and just say, why are you being like that? What's going on? And
oh, I like that.
Yeah, and that just feels like a real gift.
Yeah, Yeah, I must say that on the moments when I've done that, and there have been a few, but not as many as I'd like, and I kind of go, I like being in this place where I'm not reacting and I'm able to go, be that observer and go, that's interesting, and having that curiosity. And that's one of the things I love with the, any of the work that I do, whether it's Pilates or the wellness work. And I'm always encouraging curiosity, because I think when we're in that place, it's not a blame and shame game. When you're in curiosity, you're away from that, just going, well, let me just see. So yeah, yay you.
And it's interesting you use the words blame and shame, because it's something that we have a family banter. And I kind of have said, and I hear the family being mean to one another. And it's apparently all just laughs. It's funny, we like doing that. I'm going, but do we really? Because I can see that person's been a bit hurt by your comment.
Yeah.
And, it's so easy to just use criticism as amusement. That doesn't sound quite right, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. It's like, they say that sarcasm is the lowest form of wit. Yeah. To me, it's that sort of picking on people is a very low form of wit, and that's been very interesting.
Yeah, that whole sticks and stones, and I don't know about you, but I certainly remember, I wasn't popular at school or anything, and I certainly remember some key things even now that people had said, which really hurt. And knowing what I know now about energy work, how I almost know where some of those things are lodged in my energy, and they're just hanging out there, they're creating a little bit of havoc. And yes,
you can heal from physical abuse, but you can't, emotional abuse, and maybe abuse is a strong word in this situation, but emotional
trauma, or whatever it is you want to call it. Yeah,
that's hard to let go of. That's what really sits in your body in a physical way.
We'll have a discussion again about energy work, because how that's like. So yeah, we'll do a bit more. We'll peel another layer of that, because it's honestly so brilliant. And that's the stuff that I know that I've carried, and also stuff that you carry from your childhood and from their parents. I'm going back there down my line, my grandparents and their parents and their grandparents, and learned behaviours and all of that fun stuff. Whole other conversation. In fact, I should be speaking to one of my energy buddies as part of this conversation series, and she's a pure ninja for sure about that. But yeah, well done you, Anneliese, I'd just say. So next I just wanted to ask you, and I've said this, we've talked about this a little bit, about what your go-to practices are. So you've said yoga and nature. So what do you sit for 2 or 3 hours doing yoga? Tell me more.
No, actually, very interestingly, this period of time, I'm 50 this year, and so I'm right in perimenopause. And funny enough, it sounds silly, but it was only the last year that I realised I was hypermobile.
Okay.
Because I kind of think of people who are hypermobile. I've seen someone with chronic hypermobility where they don't even know what their body's doing in space. So I just thought I was flexible, but I had certain areas of tension that I also thought were related to childhood injuries, and I now realise are not. They're ways of my body pinning my hips together, for example.
Oh, okay.
So I have very tight muscles in my glutes, but my hips in certain positions are just kind of doing their own thing. So as I've hit perimenopause, it's got worse. It's affected me in new ways, and I'm having this slight shift with my yoga practice. So I said before that it's much more about being gentle with myself. It's more about opening up space in my body and room for my breath. So actually, my yoga practice is shorter than it used to be. I used to quite often go out on the deck and do, an hour or 2 of yoga a day. But actually, I probably only do about half an hour a day, if that. Sometimes I don't do it. Sorry, but I don't.
No, don't be sorry. We like the real. We want to hear that you don't do it. It makes me feel better. anyway, makes me feel
So
better.
I'm actually enjoying more of a stronger physical exercise practice. So I'm spending time in nature in that I'm walking a lot and going for longer walks, and sometimes those are slow and sometimes they're fast paced, but I am surrounded by nature. And honestly, the last few weeks with the bluebells out, on the other side of the road from me is the most spectacular woodland that's managed really well, and it goes up onto a railway line, and along that railway line are nightingales.
Oh, beautiful.
And so I've been up there and I've just stood sometimes for 20 minutes just listening, and I come home and I am completely blissed out. Nature is what really blisses me out. I just see something and I'm in awe. And you know, I've heard it said that awe is an emotion that we don't experience very often these days.
Yes.
We saw, I was with my son and we heard something rustling in the leaves and we thought maybe it was a mouse, and it turned out to be a common lizard. So rare, even though they're a common lizard. And I just thought, we were both absolutely gleeful. So yeah, being around nature, hearing the birds. Sometimes I'll go by myself, sometimes I'll go with other people. That is and always will be very special to me. And that's why my studio here in the garden, because being in nature is so special. And there is nothing better than when I can practice yoga outside. When I'm warm, when the sun's shining. So that, you know, that helped my happiness, because the last few weeks have been complete joy.
Yeah.
So really it's that combination of stronger physical exercise, trying to get myself stronger, which is making me feel better. Then I'm doing the stretchy, calming, restful, restorative yoga, and then spending time in nature.
And I think it's interesting. I go for walks on the downs with my dog, and I joke that I'm bloody well tripping over people now. Everyone and their brother, the whole family. I'm obviously tongue in cheek, because it's great. But I do wonder how many people have gone, oh my goodness me. And I try and go out, because I'm doing my key worker role a bit, and I try and go out when there's no one there, which is usually now later at night. And I saw a badger the other day. I've never seen a badger up close, and I went, I think I stopped breathing a bit, and it was slightly dusk, and it stood and watched me, and I stood and watched it. And when you say that word in awe, we don't feel that awe, and we use that word, oh, something's awesome, overused, but yeah, I felt that sense of maybe not even awe, but that, oh my goodness, there's a badger and it's a 2-minute walk from my house. How incredible is that? And like all my senses seem to come alive. Seeing this dear little badger is probably going, shit, there's a big human. How do I get out of the way?
Yeah, honestly, you can probably see my eyes get teary. I sometimes am moved to tears. When I was listening to the nightingale, I was almost in tears. I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And this situation is, I hope, making a lot of people far more grateful. But I was listening to the news last night, and there was this man. They asked him if he thought that we were going to make changes, and he said, we haven't been in this for long enough. The wars went on for years. It wasn't like we suddenly, after a month, came out and changed our behaviour.
That's true.
That's true. Keep my fingers crossed, and I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I'm hopeful too, I must say, and I love having a bit of hope. And so actually that brings it nicely to my final question for you. What one thing do you want to share? I say with the world, whether it's this small world in a group, but to spread further, because somebody in this group can tell their sister or their cousin, and they can tell someone else, and why not? Let's share it with the world. What would you like to share?
It may be a bit of a cliche, but it's being present, and it's being present to the physical feelings in your body that you're experiencing when times are really challenging, but also when you're having those blissful moments or those moments of joy. Because I really hope this isn't going to happen again, but it might. And I don't think there's anything more valuable than learning to understand your body. So tuning into what your body is telling you, so that you know that when you're in a really difficult place, you contract, you create, I don't know, clench your teeth, whatever it is, but that's your pattern. But really also recognize when you are feeling gleeful, awed, joyful, that feeling of space, so that we remember.
Yes.
Remember, what this experience was like, so that we can learn from it. And we're very good at averting our attention from what's uncomfortable, and we avoid situations, and sometimes that's really necessary. Sometimes we need to stop watching the news, and just give ourselves that space. But we're not so good at going, how does this feel? I'm feeling really happy, I'm feeling really content. What does that feel like? Or even, what does that feel like? Because we tend to tune into the head before we tune into the body. So we know that we're reacting to something, and we move away from it before we've actually experienced what that reaction was. So give yourself time to experience the reaction, and to feel it, and to remember. And if you need tools, there are many people who can help you to find tools and ways to soothe again, or to, but we shouldn't keep trying to soothe. This is something that's happening to other people mostly. I'm very lucky that I don't feel like it's happening to me, because I'm in my safe little bubble. But there are a lot of people to whom who are getting this virus, who are in very difficult situations, who are stuck in flats, not able to get out. How does that feel? And try not to turn away from it.
Yeah.
But if you need help, ask for it.
That is.
Whilst I sort of said earlier about not wanting to give, trying to be very careful about what I give away for free. If somebody's in a really bad place and they came to me and said, I need some help, I don't know who else to go to, of course I would step in. And I'm sure that there will be lots of other people who would too, because this is an unprecedented situation to be in.
Sure. And I love that, acknowledging all the feelings. They all have something to teach us, but, not wallowing in them, not staying in them, reaching out for help is such a beautiful message. And I thank you so much for being on this conversation with me. And it feels so good to talk properly. Do you know what I mean? I know you and I do anyway. So hopefully, and I know it will have, I don't hope, I know that this will have helped somebody else, and the people who need it will hear it. And I thank you so much for your generosity.
My pleasure. And I'm having that heart hug with you that we often have.
Yes, me too. That sort of sisterhood loving. Thank you, Anneliese. And I'm going to say goodbye and finish the recording here. So, thanks for watching, and do let us know any comments. I'll put Anneliese's links below this so that you can catch up with her. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye, Fiona.